Welcome back to Startups with Stu. Today's episode is special because we're covering two of my favorite things, entrepreneurship and baseball. My guest spent 26 years in sales and retail leadership at Best Buy, rising to district and territory manager. But his real calling was bigger than a corporate title. Aaron Pridmore is VP at Glowball, a blacklight sports experience company bringing new energy to baseball and softball events nationwide. He's also host of the Slide podcast, where he's interviewed over 700 youth baseball and softball players, building a team of 22 kid field reporters across 11 states. It's a cool way to mentor. You got to hear about it. He helped launch the Savannah Bananas youth tournament, 75 teams from 48 states in year one, and Newsweek's best youth tournament of 2025. This September, he brings the first ever blacklight sporting event to the Field of Dreams in Iowa. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
It is always a pleasure to have an episode and to have a guest where we get to talk about some of my favorite things, both entrepreneurship and baseball today on this episode of Startups with Stu, where we talk about what it takes to take your startup to the moon. Aaron Pridmore is our guest today. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
So you guys, Aaron is the VP at Glowball, which he's going to tell us all about. And he's also the host of a podcast, if you're into baseball, you should check out, called The Slide Cast. Is that right? Is that nice?
Slide Podcast.
The Slide Podcast.
Yep.
Okay. And tell me about some of your favorite guests on the show, by the way. Who've you had?
Oh, man. I've had Vincent, the dancing umpire.
From Banana Ball. Vincent, that guy was like twerking as he's calling balls and strikes.
Yep.
Okay.
He's always fun. I usually have him hopping on, do cameos and surprise some kids that are big fans. Mark Paul, Daddy Ball, the one that kind of started all the Daddy Ball stuff. He's always fun to have on the show, but more importantly, the kids. So unlike most podcasts, we focus on the youth. And so we talk to kids all around the country about their love and passion for baseball and softball. And it's always fun to just hear a kid's perspective, right? So honestly, to pick one of those kids out of the 700 that we have talked to through the show, it's kind of hard. You learn so much about different ways to view the sports when we listen to kids. And so every one of these kids are unique. This past Monday night, we recorded with Kariyo Nakamoto, who is a Japanese American. And he told us kind of the history of Japanese baseball. And his godfather was Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid.
No way.
And so we heard some cool stories about him. He told us some really cool stories about Shohei Ohtani. And I had two of our kids that are part of the show on with us, and they got to ask tons of questions. And it was super fun and very educational. So you'll have to make sure you check that one out.
So after talking to hundreds of youth baseball and softball players on the show, which I want to hear like the genesis of that idea.
Yeah.
But like, what are some of the key takeaways you've learned from them?
Kids just want to be kids. And for a lot of them, we don't focus just on those, Select Fest, PG kids. We talk to every kid that's got a story, right? And So many kids today feel like it's a job more than it is a hobby at 10 years old. And what I've discovered from my time in my career, as well as the show, is we are rushing kids to be adults way too fast. And we're turning what should be fun into work. And we can use the word work and practice and all that kind of stuff, but that's what we hear from kids. And kids love to meet other kids. Kids love to, they love the communication. They love the networking that comes with it. They may not use the word networking, but they love just that community feeling in the game. And honestly, the funny part is when you bring up, like, the crazy parents and the ridiculous coaches and all of this stuff that we all have heard these stories about, like, they are so against all of that. But what I've found is, even though you got that screaming parent in the stands, that kid out there just wants to play, right?
Mhm.
He don't care. Maybe he got upset because he struck out or he got out, but at the end of the day, he's ready for his next at bat and the next play. And we still have parents carrying on, in the stands. And so kids, it's fun, and kids love competition, and kids are okay with losing, right? I mean, you'd be surprised how many times we ask kids, the would you rathers, questions and different things just to keep things moving. And more times than not, they choose to play. If you say, would you rather play on a team with a bunch of your friends that you grew up playing with, or you want to play on a top caliber team and go win a championship, they say they'd rather play with their friends. And so that's kind of what I take, from these kids. And what I try to provide to those kids is an avenue, first of all, for them to feel safe. And another way is to help them build their self-confidence. You asked, and you said you wanted to hear kind of the genesis of the show and what made me start such a unique show. I was a parent that coached my son, and I wasn't the crazy parent. And all I focused on was just making sure kids understood what I was saying, right? Because sometimes coaches want to talk in MLB language, like they're on Sports Center, right? And they're using terminology that doesn't click for kids. And so kids get frustrated, and kids retire at 9 years old or 10 years old from the game. And I saw so much negativity, even here in South Carolina, my little rec league, enough negativity to where I told my wife one night is I want to help kids. And I believe, and not to get, super religious on you, but I believe the Lord put me here for kids. And so I wanted to provide that baseball tonight moment for these kids, right? Talking to a kid about the first time they hit a home run. Holy cow, I get cold chills right here in some of these kids. One of my talking points is I never hit a home run, right? I wasn't a great baseball player. I mean, I was good, but I never hit a home run. So all these kids, when they talking about their first home run, I'm like, walk me through it all. I want to, like, the sounds, and what do you remember, and like, what were your parents doing, and like, and they can tell you like everything about that moment. And so too many times in our game, we get so wrapped up that we forget about the small things that happen during the game. And so I wanted to give a chance for kids to talk about even the smallest victories, right?
Yeah.
And because, with social media today, and with travel ball becoming what it is, kids get lost in that shuffle. And, they're moving from team to team, and it's not because the kids are choosing to do so. It's because mom and dad says, we're going to go play over here. And it's, I wanted to provide a different dynamic. And I also wanted to teach kids skill sets that would benefit them in their adult world as well. And so that's when, in 2022, I went from just your normal podcast to where we created something called Field Reporters. And so over the years, we've, since we started in 2003, I had the idea in 2, and the following year I kicked it off. And so we've had over 40 kids that have been a part of our show and field reporters. Some of those kids got old, aged out, and kind of went to school, or their schedule got busy, and so they pulled back. But right now we currently have 22 kids and 11 different states represented on the show. And so each one of those kids get the opportunity to hang out with me, and we get to talk about how do you ask the right questions, right? Interviewing is not just hammering people with questions. It's about asking good questions and then listening to the responses. And we do exercises where, I let them write down 5 questions, and we go through those 5 questions, and I kind of tell them how to think about their answers. So teaching kids like to be on purpose, right? And, have an agenda kind of as you're doing your interview. And, we talk about open-ended questions, closed-ended questions. I spent 26 years in sales before I hopped into the sports world. And so teaching salespeople, how to communicate and find out, your customers' needs was a big thing of mine. And so now I've carried that over to these kids. And, now we're talking about how to prep for an interview, how to prep for a podcast interview, what questions to ask. And, the thing that is the biggest challenge is getting them to stop talking and listen. And, because then I do another exercise where they can only ask me one question. And then every question they ask after that has to be based on the answer that I give. Right. Because, what I find with these new field reporters is they get stumped on that first question. They're like, oh, I forgot the rest of my questions. And I try to teach them all you need is one good question to start with, and everything else will carry from there. So see, you asked me one simple question, and here I am just talking away. So
there you go. Well, it's good stuff to just keep talking about, because you're making a difference for good with these youth. I love that. I also, man, you don't have to apologize with me, that's for sure, about getting religious on the show. I think that so many founders, so many podcasters, what really motivates them in their deepest soul isn't the money, the fame, the connections they get. It's actually feeling like they're doing what God wants them to do in this life.
Right. That's right. Well, there's, I've gotten pretty big paychecks before. And that feels good for a moment, right? Until I pay my bills, and then I'm defeated again. Right. So then, but you go out and you help some kids. That's the most fulfilling work that I've ever done. Right. And you don't ever look at it as what I do, but it's like, what now are they capable of doing? Mm-hmm. And, some parents reached out to me for the field reporter program because they wanted their kid to learn how to talk to other people. And that's a common issue today with kids because of devices. And that was kind of my driving point at the beginning is, look, if kids are going to be on their devices, I'm going to give them some form of content to where they can use that device, but they can have some fun, they can laugh, and hopefully they can learn a little something. So, but parents reached out, and I'll give you a prime example. So Banana Jake, he's been with us from the start. He's field reporter number 4, right? So all these kids get their reporter number, and that number is theirs for the life. And so we retire numbers when kids come out of the program. And so I created a whole process, right? So Banana Jake, his mom reached out to me. I was in Panama City for a baseball tournament, and she said, I want my son, he's pretty good, but I want him to be able to walk up to people and talk. And that's not a common trait for kids these days. And so we have all kids, they record an intro video and kind of introduce themselves to our audience. And his first intro video, and I could even send it to you, is very robotic, right? We've talked about this, so I'm not saying anything about him that he didn't know. But now he went out the prospect wire in Tennessee this past weekend and won pitching MVP, but he's out there interviewing all of these coaches that he worked with. He's interviewing these top players that showed up to this event. And what that's teaching these coaches is we've got a kid now that's multi-talented, right? He's not scared to talk. And how he has grown over the years it's insane. Last year, his mom sent him with me to the ABCA. And so she wanted him to learn how to network. And so he went to the ABCA with me convention. Where was it? It was in DC that year. And I took him around and he got to watch me meet people and shake hands and start conversations. And then I kind of turned it over to him. And I'm like, it's your time. Right. And so we coach through things and we talk about, hey, if you would have said this could have been the reaction you get. No, let's go back to the drawing board and let's find a different way now to walk up to strangers and say, hey, here's who we are. So it's fun. And again, I come back to God's purpose and helping me work with kids. It's amazing when you get to see how a kid turns into adult and you've had a little impact on their life.
Dude, so good for you. I love that. And now these kids, their whole life, they will be adults coaching young kids and remember the impact that Aaron Pridmore had on them. So good for you. Okay, so speaking of impact, you've had impact in a lot of different arenas. One was with the Savannah Bananas organization. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah. So in 2022, when we started the show, I tried never to get on social media just because I just didn't want to be a part of it. But the show forced me to have to get on social media to promote the show. So probably February of 22 is when I realized who the Bananas were and what they were doing. And I was just blown away because I'm like, this is fun. Right? If you turn on an MLB game, I grew up watching the MLB during I say the steroid era, but baseball was exciting, right? You had the Griffeys, the Bonds, Canseco was my guy. You had Mark McGuire, Sosa, all these guys. Well, baseball now has just become almost robotic, right? You don't see players with a ton of emotions. They don't do a lot of celebration. And honestly, the MLB didn't really. There's a lot of traditional baseball people that don't agree with what the Bananas do. Well, I ended up having Emily Cole. She's the co-owner of the Bananas on the show. Mm-hmm. And I had some players on the show and I finally got invited down in August and I sat in a game there at Grayson Stadium and watched everything. And I was just floored and watching the kids and the parents go crazy. And so I told my wife sitting there, I want to work for this. I want to work for the Bananas. Like we will move to Savannah if this is what I get a chance to do. And by the time I got home, the next day I had realtors calling me because my wife was already looking for houses. So
she's like, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Well, yeah. And thankfully, and thank the Lord, she has confidence in me. But so funny enough, I reached out to Jared Orton on LinkedIn, who is the general manager of the team. And he connects me. And so if you listen to Jesse talk, he'll talk about this in some of his speeches, is that when you apply for the Bananas, they're not primarily concerned with your previous jobs and resume. They ask you to create what's called a future resume, which was, I had taught resume classes and I was like, I have to ask what exactly is this? And so assuming we hire you, what would be your dream job? And I believe they said, what would make you happy to get up out of bed to come to work? And I'm like, well, perfect. Banana ball needs to be for kids. And so I wrote a future resume based on me being youth banana ball director and starting here and going here. And it was kind of like a 5-year plan. And so my first interview, that is all we talked about, right? We talked about that future resume. And I had two of the associates on with the interview, and they said, we're not ready yet. Now, again, this is August 22, before they had declared all banana ball, right? They were still playing in the Coastal Plain League. But we want to do this, but we're not ready yet. So that was probably September. The first weekend, December, I get a phone call from the CFO, Tim Natty, and says, basically, are you ready to go? And so that was the launching point right there of us starting And then we went on a tournament company evaluation of who we wanted to partner with. And yeah, we ran our first youth banana ball tournament in Cincinnati, in Cleveland, Ohio, in 2022. We had 75 teams from 48 different states show up. And it was the most kumbaya environment I had ever seen at a youth sporting event. We
in a good way or bad way?
In a great way.
In a great way.
Here's what was happening.
Yeah.
Right. Normally you've got two teams competing against each other, right? That's how it works. Well, in normal circumstances, one team, or specifically the parents, don't like the other team or the other parents. Right. And so there's that competition around who's going to win the game. But what we encourage these kids to do is, you see us, the Bananas, out there having fun with our walk-ups. You see the trick plays. You know, we taught them the rules. You saw these fun rules. And that's what we delivered there on site. And parents were applauding for both teams when the opposing team made a trick play or had this insane walk-up that they had rehearsed and choreographed on their own. Like, parents couldn't help but laugh and have fun. And I'm going to tell you, and when I say kumbaya, it was so relaxed, but fun at the same time. And I got to hear from kids that said, you know, Coach Aaron, this past season was going to be my last season ever playing ball, but now I'm ready to play next season. Like, I'm playing again because I just played the best I've ever played out there on that field. And I'm like, what? How is that possible? Like, you're playing a new game. You're playing a new sport. How did you just play out there the best you've ever played? And the first thing that they'll tell you is there was no pressure. And, you know, keep in mind, some of these kids aren't outspoken. They're not, you know, they're more introverts than extroverts. But these kids, dude, I'm going to tell you. So one of the most memorable walkout that I saw at that first tournament is, you know, the song Rodeo, the hip hop song. All right. This kid yeah. So the kid comes out, you know, the song starts and he rips his shirt off, and, you know, the whole Magic Mike stuff, like, he climbed the backstop. Now I'm walking down the concourse in between fields, and I see this kid climbing the backstop, and I'm hearing the music, and he is up on that backstop, like, to the other parents, like, dancing on it, and everybody is just going insane for this. And it was life-changing for me. Just those little things and watching kids just get the most out of this experience was incredible. And then, so fast forward the following year, so last year in 25, we ran our second. And unfortunately, Mother Nature in Savannah doesn't like to cooperate with a lot of events. And so we ended up having to evacuate the complexes every single day. But check this out. Once we got back, right, we did a lot of damage control every night. We were reworking schedules. We were reworking, you know, all the brackets, everything, trying to find a solution, the way to get kids play more games. After we got back, Newsweek sent out a poll to all of these parents and posted it online around what was the best youth tournament of 2025. It was up against Cooperstown, Triple Crown, two PG tournaments, and a couple others. And we finished number one out of all of it. Even having those issues, people still said it was the best event they ever attended. And so, you know, a few months later, the Bananas, obviously, they're expanding their team base, added 2 new teams. And, you know, you really have to invest into the youth side if you're going to build it. And it was a lot at that moment. And right around the same time, one of my good buddies, Chad Miller from Squares Shoes and hitting coach, reached out and said, "You ever heard of Glowball?" And I was like, I think I have. And so he connects me, and then I take a right and go on that journey. And that's what I'm doing today outside of the podcast.
That's a cool evolution. And I gotta ask, do you think that banana ball will go back to the youth
Well, so they're running more experience based events now, so not so much focused on the competition itself. I believe yes, they will. So they do run a lot of camps. I helped Kyle and Bill with all the camps, and they did an event 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Savannah, and it was more camp based, and they got to play. I think each team had 2 games they got to play, but nothing compared to what we did over the last few years. And but I feel like so, because what I found, Stu, is if you talk to kids today, and I find this out on the show, is normally you say, hey, where are you going to go to school? All right, if you don't get drafted. And where do you want to go play? Who do you want to play for? And more kids are saying the Bananas, the Party Animals,
Yeah, no
the
doubt, right?
Coconuts, and the Chili Peppers, all right, the Cosmic Chili Peppers, the Glow Emojis, because kids are seeing how much fun these guys and gals are having. And that's what they want to be a part of. Kids, in their innocence, don't think about money, right? Shohei Ohtani money of, that insane paycheck he got, that's not relevant in their head right now. They're just looking at what would be fun to do when I grow up. And so I feel like those things will come around, or come back into play. And because it just has to. Right. I mean, people are begging for it.
So there's a few takeaways for founders that I want to point out as a part of this episode, Aaron. One is the future resume. Building a team of people that know that you believe in building their career is really powerful, and giving them the power to say, if I got to do things the way I want to do things, here's what I would do for you and your business. One, you're going to come up with all sorts of new ideas for your business you didn't have yourself. They came up with them. And two, they're going to all of a sudden go to work, waking up, excited to do that work. The future resume is a cheat code for success. I love that. I hope my AI is paying attention and helps me easily pull out of this episode that a key takeaway is you should consider the future resume as a part of building your team and hiring the right people for your staff.
Think about this, Stu, right? If you were building a baseball team, would you want a kid who's never caught to be the catcher? Maybe not. Or would you put a kid that's scared to be a catcher? Would you put them as a catcher? So now you're putting maybe a talented individual in a position where they might fail.
Yeah.
And in business, like I worked for the retailer Best Buy for 26 years, district manager, territory manager, all of this different stuff. And our goal was to put people where their strengths were, right? And if someone knew everything about computing and I wanted to stick them over in video games, well, I'm setting that kid up for failure. And it's the same thing when we look at a sports analogy versus corporate America as the Bananas do. We want to put you where your heart's at, because we know that if we invest in you, we're going to get the most out of you. And I think for you, and like what you just said for startups, it's not about finding people who are just like you, because it may feel good, but that's not going to help you grow as a person or a business. And so finding the right people to do the right jobs is a key to success, I believe.
Yeah. And then, dude, another takeaway, I don't know, this is reading between the lines a little bit. You mentioned that you saw what the business was doing, and you were like, I want to be a part of that. I would move my family for it. So that was a takeaway for me. Is like, you want to, as a founder, you want to build a business and start doing the work and gaining traction. And as you do that, do it in such a way where everyone working in the business looks like they're having so much fun, they want to come be a part of it. When I was growing Stu Kent, get this, one of our DoorDash drivers that ended up taking lunches to the office a lot came to the front desk lady. He's like, where do I apply to work at this company? Everyone that I talk to when I bring them their food is always so cool, so happy to see me. Everyone loves their work here. I want to come work for you guys. He's still now with the business like 6 years later, and he's grown and had raises and promotions and opportunity. And he was our DoorDash driver when he started. It's so cool to think about that parallel between what the Bananas did for you and what we were able to do for Brady Ulrich in this case. So shout out to Brady if he ends up tuning in. And then another takeaway, you had a spouse that supported you at the level of like, I'll move. I'll go where you want me to go, honey. I'll support you in this. I've found that one of the greatest cheat codes, a lot of the most successful founders I've worked with, is that they have a supportive family network around them. People that are cheering for them in their corner, will do anything, will up and move if they have to cheer you on and support you in your career path. So
it's very
that's cool
true.
to see.
Very true. Well, I got to tell you, dude. So, longtime baseball fan, one of the bucket list places for me and maybe you is Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Right. It's a magical place, right? I start thinking about it. I start getting cold chills. Well, with Glowball, we had the Field of Dreams reach out to us this year and say, would you guys come bring your black lights and run an event for us? And we said, can we pull this off? And we have now partners in Stinger Sports, Square Shoes, Going Yard, the Home Run Derby company, entertainment company. And so we're partnered with them. And this coming September the 26th, we're going to have and host the very first blacklight sporting event at the new MLB stadium that has just been finished, right? And honestly, I think the MLB either just played there or coming up this weekend, they're playing there. And so we're bringing in Eric Sim, Aiden McIntyre, Rachel Garcia. Man, I've got a list of just insane content creators that's coming. We're going to have a home run derby, and then afterwards, we're going to have a celebrity softball game. But beforehand, we're bringing, we got a country music artist that's going to start the event for us. We're bringing in these like barbecue chefs that's got like 6 million followers on social media. They're coming to cook barbecue for everyone. It's going to be the most fun that anybody's ever had at the Field of Dreams. And so like, it's just, I thank the Lord every day for putting me in this position. And, it's amazing when you have a little faith.
Yeah, man. I see you rocking the eye makeup on this episode, and it's awesome to see someone be able to never work. You don't work because you're just having fun. You're doing what you love.
That's right. Yeah, I feel guilty sometimes, right? My wife's a school teacher. She comes home from long days and she's just exhausted, and I'm in here just talking away, laughing, having fun, and getting to meet so many new cool people around the globe.
That's phenomenal. Well, Aaron, I started something crazy. National Parks Baseball Resort had about in a 100-day window of time, we sold out 140 teams from all over the U.S., from the Florida Keys to Honolulu. They're going to come to our opening year of National Parks Baseball Resort in the shadow of the Tetons, between Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. And it'll be fun to see the ways that Glowball and national parks could work together. We have to be very careful that we are good neighbors to the national parks and the farmers that are out here. But I think there's a fun way we could do it without going too crazy. And man, I applaud you for everything you've done so far with your career, and wish you guys the best with Glowball. I hope it blows up, and I'm sure it's already well on its way based on that cool news about Field of Dreams. Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
Where do people go find you online, find your show, and learn more about Glowball?
You can find me. I'll just tell you, find me on the podcast, right? So go search on all the social media networks, including YouTube, the Slide Podcast Show, and you'll find us everywhere. And then you'll get to see all of the different kids that are a part of the show, and you'll get to see all the fun moments that we've had on the show. And then if you wanted to reach out to us at Glowball about maybe setting up, some black lights at your complex or running a new business around it, reach out to glowballnation.com, and we'll help you get set up.
Fantastic. Aaron Pridmore, Glowball and the Slide podcast host. Thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Folks, now go take this new information, this new knowledge, these takeaways, and go take your startup to the moon. This is a wrap on another episode of Startups with Stu.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.